Welcome back to the Diaries of a Witch podcast. My name is Angelica Crashi, and today we have a slightly different setup if you're watching on YouTube. Hi. I am trying out using like this little mini mic. Today we are going to be talking about the Salem Witchfest. So I was at the Salem Witchfest a couple of weekends ago. It was like the weekend of the new moon in Virgo. So that week, and really like literally it was the entire week, honestly. And so today we're going to be talking about the festival, my time at the festival, highlights, things that I really enjoyed, and honestly, like every time I do witchcraft professional education, it really does help me in my practice. It really does help me in so many ways that I would never have guessed before. And I feel like every time I either go to a conference or I take an online program or like whatever it is I do to improve and, do like witchcraft or astrological learning, it just is so incredible. And I don't even really realize, but it just kind of breaks my brain open and leaves me with the thing that I was meant to hear and meant to learn at that time. So, kind of like how we did an episode talking all about my trip to Varna, Bulgaria and my ancient astrology studies that I did there, this episode is going to be about my time at the Salem Witch Fest, stories, fun things, things that I learned. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Come along with me through my eyes as a witch attending a week-long practically witchcraft conference in Salem, Massachusetts. For dramatic effect, should I wear my Salem Witch Fest badge? This would be so funny. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I just put on my Salem Witch Fest badge. So that's what we're doing. So I have the catalog, and I'm going to be kind of using the catalog to help me. The entire festival was a blur. Look, like it was a long festival in the best way possible, and this is likely going to help me remember the exact schedule of events. So the first couple of days, there was like no in-person classes, but there were events in the evening, and there were like online classes. So I was just kind of doing my normal thing. I actually live in Salem, Massachusetts, so it was really easy for me to attend this conference, and I always like it when folks come and visit me in Salem, like when my friends and my mutuals online come and visit me, and the Salem Witch Fest is like the perfect opportunity for that because everybody's in town, everybody's coming to the festival, it's so much fun. So it just kind of felt like I was having a bunch of friends come and visit the entire time, which was awesome. So the first couple nights we just did fun outings. So we went on a boat. I've actually never cruised around the Salem Harbor, but we went on a Salem Harbor like boat tour. And it was so fun because we like the stars came out, we got to see the stars. I was obviously out there pointing out the stars to anybody who would listen. We saw the Swan constellation in Vega, and it was just like so beautiful out there. The next night was Practical Magick. So we did a screening, and then there was a couple people on the panel. So like Marshall, Witch of Southern Light was on the panel, Al Cummings, like a bunch of people, the Death Witch, and yeah, it was just really fun. And I've never seen Practical Magick ever. Like, I know this is shocking. I feel like it's so the witchcraft movie. And I, for whatever reason, maybe it's because of the soundtrack or social media posts that I've seen about it, like the Midnight Margaritas thing, I just always thought I wouldn't like it. Like, I just always was like, yeah, this doesn't feel like it's for me. I don't know what it was. I just, when something becomes really popular, this is gonna like reveal, it's gonna reveal my edgelord nature. No, I'm really not an edgelord, I promise. That would be embarrassing if I was. But when something gets really popular and you're just kind of like, I've never seen this, and I feel like it's almost too popular for me to even dive in. Like I feel like I'm gonna be disappointed because if the masses like it, it's probably not that great. I don't know. Does anyone ever feel this way about like really big movies or books or TV shows or things like that? But, then I will actually watch or read the series or whatever it is. Like I kind of felt this way about ACOTAR for a while, where I was like, oh God, not more ACOTAR stuff. And then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna read it. And you know, ACOTAR's not perfect. We know it's not perfect, but I like it. I read it. I probably read A Court of Mist and Fury like 3 times. Like I enjoyed the series, you know what I mean? And I felt the same way about Practical Magick, where I was like, okay, and this is kind of what the panel was discussing. Like, okay, was it, you know, absolutely perfect in every way? Probably not, but I really enjoyed it, and I was like genuinely shocked at how much I liked it and how like truly like witchy I felt like it was. Again, sometimes, you know, when you're watching like witchcraft movies, um there's almost this angle where you're like, oh, like this doesn't feel like real magic, or this doesn't feel like magic as I see it as a practitioner. This just feels like, you know, like movie magic or that type of thing. And honestly, like, yeah, there are like fantastical elements and that sort of thing, but they all felt very real and touched in and tuned in to what the experience of practicing magic is actually like. And you know, even like when they revive the guy, right, when they like bring the guy back to life, I do feel like, even though maybe we don't, I don't know, I've never brought anybody back to life, I don't know if you have. Even that, like, I know is sort of fantastical, but it sort of felt real to the nature of magic, where like sometimes you'll do a spell where you see the results really immediately, or the results keep coming in and coming back, and almost like how he was kind of like haunting them. It did almost make me feel like, yeah, like I felt this way positively about spells before. I don't know if I can think of any situation where I felt this negatively about a spell, because I don't even know if I've like, if I have a spell work scenario that I did that would have sort of caused a negative haunting of the results. But I've definitely felt that before, like that sense of awe. And I feel like that was expressed through the like fantastical elements. I also really liked that he came back as like a rose bush, because to me, like roses, I associate them with Adonis, which, and Aphrodite, of course, who, you know, Adonis is like the lover of Aphrodite and Persephone. When I believe it was like, and I might be getting this wrong, but I believe it's like when his blood spilled, roses grew. And so I just really loved that he came back as roses, because it just reminded me of the Adonis thing. I don't know if they were trying to reference that, but that was just really fascinating. And roses are, you know, really interesting, like herbal ally, really interesting plant to that represents love, but it also can represent, you know, it's like thorny, so it can represent like, I think now in my practice I use it a lot for like protection. But I guess you could, you know, in that movie it sort of represented like the thorniness of love and that sort of thing. So I really enjoyed it. All in all, I was shocked that I've never seen it before. Anyway, so moving on to the next day. The next day was Thursday, which was the start of like the classes in the conference. And what classes did I go to this day? So I went to, oh yes, I went to Mahegan's class, Mahegan, aka Kitchen Toad. Really interesting class about necromancy. I went to Sterling and Lula Decima's class on justice magic. That was really great. Again, both of those classes brought up necromancy in a lot of like ways, and it was interesting like learning, almost like doing like a 4-hour block on necromancy. So yeah, that was like my necromancy day. And you know, as a witch who works with the underworld, I just found it really interesting hearing from different people, especially like, you know, folk magic practitioners for the most part, because that's sort of the backgrounds of the folks who were presenting. It was really interesting to me because I do a lot of work with like journeying to the underworld deities, my ancestors, that sort of thing. But I'm not like, I haven't worked as much with like spirits of the dead. Yeah, it's just not really something that I've like dove into that much, like necromancy proper. I am like a big servitor girl. I just find that if I'm going to work with like any sort of entity out there. It's gonna be like usually it's a servitor or a tulpa or something like that. I'm a chaos witch, so I just really enjoy creating like magical allies to work with. But yeah, I feel like I learned a couple of things that I'm definitely going to be implementing, which is really, really fun. And then, oh yeah, I was like, wait a second, I didn't go to a third class that day. Yeah, then on Thursday, me and Jack from Jack's Witchy Ways, Jacqueline, we went to the park, and or not the park, we went to the graveyard and we had a picnic. We had like an old fashioned like Victorian graveyard picnic. That was so much fun. I just absolutely adored that. We initially were just there for like 30 minutes and we were just there in between classes, and then we just kept talking, kept talking, kept talking, and we just ended up like missing the class block. But that was totally fine because I think we both needed like a chill moment, and yeah, we just had a really nice time in the graveyard. On Thursday night, we had the Antilux ritual, which here it is like on the paper. But Antilux is basically this like ritual performance that they do at the witch house, and there's like 3 different rooms that you can go into and you can watch different ritual performances at the witch fest. And it was just so beautiful, and I'd actually never been to an Antilux that the Salem Witchfest has put on. I've been to the festival. This was my 3rd time going to the Salem Witchfest in person, but for some reason I've never made it to Antilux. So we stood outside of Antilux because there's sort of a situation where like only a certain group, like a certain amount of people could go in at a time. So then everyone else was like waiting outside. It was kind of like a haunted house, if you will, only it was like actual witchcraft happening. The best kind of haunted house. So I was outside doing street interviews with the people in line, and that was really fun using this mic. And yeah, I got to talk to Frankie and a bunch of other people, and that was really fun. Those interviews are still kind of coming out. I'm still working on editing them and going through them. And yeah, that was just fun. That was one of those things where the background on the street interview is I really wanted to do them, and I was kind of nervous because you're like talking in public to people and you're going up to people in the street, and obviously they were waiting in line, like they're people I knew, so it wasn't like random people. But I've been doing this thing in my Discord server and in Patreon for the last couple of weeks for the month of August, and we did like this challenge called Fate Favors the Bold. And what I mean by that and what that challenge is about is it was basically working with that axiom for the entire month. And I was challenging my patrons and my Discord people to do things that push them out of their comfort zone all month. And we were kind of like reporting back on it and talking about it, and just, talking about the idea that when you get out of your comfort zone, when you do things that are a little bit out of your comfort zone, it is almost, you can sort of think about it as this magical act that attracts things to you. And so, we talked more about it in the Patreon, but that's sort of the main idea, is that stepping out of your comfort zone can actually be like something you leverage as like a magical battery. So we did that, and this was like my big Fate Favors the Bold moment in August. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do street interviews. I'm gonna do this. This is gonna work. This is gonna be fun. And so I'm really glad that I ended up doing them. And yeah, I got out of my comfort zone. I did it. Making new content, doing new things. Antilux itself was really beautiful, and it was very moving, and there was like a Circe ritual, there was a Kimbanda ritual, there was a couple of different other things. Oh yeah, then there was a Santa Muerte ritual. And yeah, various different magical traditions, different practitioners and devotees of those divinities and traditions, and yeah, I just really enjoyed it. And after Antilux, we all went out. And that leads me into Friday, because Friday we were out, or Thursday we were out so late that Friday I like literally could not physically get up. I was like, I'm so sleepy. And meanwhile, like I'd been working kind of the whole week just normally. And then now it's the weekend, and I'm literally every day there's like all this stuff going on. So I just was like, okay, I'm going to take the morning. I'm going to chill. I had some emails. I had some like stuff that I had to do just for, like content and business and stuff like that. So I did that in the morning, and then I went to Austin Fuller's love potion class, and that was so fun. And we talked a lot about food, which I was not expecting. I guess it's like love potion, so I don't it makes sense, but for some reason I just like was not picturing food. But we were talking a lot about how food is a love potion, and it like unlocked a bunch of things for me, and I kept thinking about what we were talking about and what he said about that, and some of the foods and fruits and like ingredients we were talking about for love potions. So that was a really great class, and a sort of a surprising class that brought in a lot of my interest in kitchen magic. So that really inspired me. And then what did I do? Oh yes, then I went to Peter Josephson's class on abundance magic. So it's called Abundance Magic in Late Capitalism, and which, fascinating. I'm already interested. But Peter is such a great occultist, and I met Peter last year at the Witchfest, and we kind of bonded over the fact that I really liked his style of how he practices magic, and I felt very much like we had a very similar style and outlook. And he taught a class last year that I loved, and it was like my favorite class of Witchfest last year. So I went to his class. It was amazing. It was awesome. Then on Friday evening, they had the market, like the market that they do with the Salem Witchfest. And I had the greatest time at this market. Oh my gosh. Usually when I go to markets, because there's sort of a lot in this area, I'm usually kind of in and out. I'm usually kind of like, yeah, I don't really need anything. Like, I'm very much like, I don't need anything, I'm not going to get anything kind of person. Like, I really like to have a list of like, okay, I'm out of this oil, I need this, I need candles, like, then I'll buy things because they're sort of like on my list. But I'm not really like a vibes shopper. I've kind of always been like that. But anyway, so I'm at the market, and there's so many people from out of town. There's so many vendors that like, they're just coming for the Witch Fest, and so they're from other places. And I felt like, oh my gosh, if I don't get these items now, like, when am I going to see these people again in person? And again, I'm not like a huge online shopper either. Like, I really do like buying things in person and like supporting local businesses and that sort of thing. So I was like, okay, like, this is my time to get the stuff that I want to get from these vendors who are usually not in the area. And I ended up getting a bunch of stuff that was like glamour magic themed. It was so funny. Like, almost everything I got was glamour magic. So I got a really gorgeous big Jezebel root. Let me see if I can show you. Okay, I have my Jezebel root. It is literally the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. Here she is. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see my Jezebel root. So it's basically like this big central root, and then it has a bunch of these little branches coming off of it. And I bought this from Phytonosis from Jeremy, who I believe grows these, or at the very least like forages them in a proper way. And Jezebel root is one of those things that's really, really difficult to find like genuine authentic Jezebel. I can't even tell you how many times I've went to buy Jezebel root and then realized that it was actually pine bark. There's a couple of herbs that are either just difficult to get, or for whatever reason in the herbal like world, they're often substituted with other things. And what I mean by that is like, this isn't like a metaphysical substitution. It's just like, for whatever reason in the herbal industry, it's really hard to find Jezebel root. Usually it's just pine mulch or pine bark. Like, it's something that a lot of herbal dealers and sellers will just pass off like pine bark as Jezebel root, and they're just like, whatever. And maybe some of them don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe they get it from their supplier and they don't know, but I just see it all the time. And I remember I tried to do a working with Jezebel root a couple of years ago, and I didn't have a genuine Jezebel root. I had like pine mulch, and I was like, why isn't this spell working? And I really felt like, I'm not connecting with this plant. Like, what am I doing wrong? And that's when I like did some more research and found out that Jezebel root is actually just really hard to find. So when I saw the really genuine Jezebel, I was like, okay, we need one. I'll take 15 of them, right? So I got a genuine Jezebel that I'm so excited about. I got a perfume that was inspired by the fixed star Cygnus that I'm going to do a little bit of enchanting on while Cygnus is still visible in the sky. I got some enchanted makeup from Dr. Finch. Oh my gosh, whenever I saw that Phoebe was selling enchanted makeup, I was so excited. I can't even tell you. I was like, I'll take one of everything you have, literally. And I've literally always been saying to myself, like, I'm not going to be the person, because I don't make products to sell. It's like not what I do typically. But I'm not going to be the person, but somebody out here needs to make enchanted makeup. Like, I don't know who it's going to be. And honestly, there's no better person than Dr. Finch, because she's an incredible like conjure practitioner, and I trust her so much with oils and essences and makeup and like just crafting anything like by hand. She's just so great at it. And like her formulas are super powerful. I just am really excited about all the makeup that I got from them. I actually am wearing the lip gloss and then the blush that I got from Dr. Finch right now. So enchanted makeup. And then I got a couple of things from Frankie, because when Frankie comes into town, you have to get your Italian American folk magic items, right? Then on Saturday, I slept in again because I was up all night Friday night working on my costume. I like had worked on my costume a little bit, but there was just a couple of like things that I needed to like paint, and I was mainly like working on the shield of my costume. So I stayed up kind of late on Friday doing that after the market. And I was also staying up late because I was listening to a couple of people on YouTube discussing like the I fell in love with my psychiatrist TikTok thing. Has anybody heard of this? I'm sure you have. Please, like, I want to talk about this to people, because I was like gripped and I was painting my shield and like working on my costume, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening here? Yeah, I found that story so crazy. And since then, I've watched a couple of other people like do commentary about that situation. And wow, that's all I have to say. I can't say I'm a Kendra fan, but yeah, it was just so jarring watching somebody in my opinion, was kind of delusional about their situation. So I don't know if that's the way that you felt about the psychiatrist TikTok situation, but that's definitely how I felt about it. So the first class that I went to on Saturday was Cadmus's class. This was my class of the festival. This was the class that, if I had to pick one, and it's hard to pick because they were all incredible for different reasons, but Cadmus is one of my favorites. He is a philosophy professor. He wrote a great book called True to Earth, Pagan Political Theology, that came out a couple of years ago. And I've had that book for a while, and I just love his work. Every class he's ever done, either for the Witchfest or through the Cauldron Black or whatever, like, I've watched all of them. I love all of them. And he talks a lot about like ancient Greek magic and ancient Greek theology and the theoretical applications for the occultist, which is obviously something I'm super interested in as well. I remember last year we were talking about the PMG when we met up for the Witchfest last year, and I just really trust his breakdowns of things because of his background, and he's just so smart, and I love the way that he synthesizes things. So his class was so fucking cool. It was about how we can work with like the conflict that the Greek gods naturally have with each other theoretically in magic. If you're interested, like, just get the class, because it was seriously so amazing, and I took so many notes, and my mind was blown the entire time. I absolutely loved that class. And then the last class of the entire festival that I took was Frankie's Chaotic Witch Aunts. And honestly, that was one of my favorite classes as well. It was super well done, so well researched, and I've never taken a class with them before, and that was just a really great opportunity for me to learn from them about Italian folk magic, which is the topic that I'm super interested in. And it's something that, unlike Italian American, and Italian folk magic is a huge sort of part of my magical background and was sort of the first magical thing that I was ever exposed to, I suppose. But it's not something that I hugely specialize in. I don't really talk about it or make content about it necessarily. It's just not like something that is a major professional specialty of mine, even though it's sort of a part of my personal practice. So I really enjoyed hearing Frankie's perspectives on it, and I learned so many things that I couldn't have possibly distilled from, like my grandmother when she was around and teaching me. She passed away when I was like 11, so I didn't really even get to learn that much from her to begin with. We're coming to my favorite event of the Salem Witchfest, which was the Black Cat Cabaret. I had so much fun at this event. I dressed up. You've probably seen my costume already if you follow me on Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, at Angelica S. Krejci, it's all going to be in the show notes as well, or in the caption. But I dressed up as like sexy Roman soldier. I was like, okay, what if like a Roman soldier was like a showgirl, like a Vegas showgirl? Like that was my vibe. And I'm like really into Vegas and Vegas showgirls like as an aesthetic. And I've been into that kind of stuff way before the Taylor Swift album announcement. I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan. To begin with, but she announced that album and I was honestly excited because I was like, ooh, one of my interests is now almost like coming into the world. Like people are interested in this aesthetic now, which normally would kind of annoy me. But for some reason I was like, you know what, it's time that people enjoy the same aesthetic that I've enjoyed for a while. So anyway, I was actually really happy when I saw that that was the title of her album, and I think it's a really good concept. Like I think it's, to me, I think it's a better concept than the previous Taylor Swift album. And I haven't listened to any of these albums, so I don't know. I'm not a Taylor Swift fan. I'm just a hater. But I was like Roman soldier meets like Vegas showgirl. That was like my vibe. So I had like red fishnets, a red bodysuit. The bodysuit was this vintage swimsuit that I thrifted that I was supposed to wear for a photo shoot in the Poconos. Okay. You know how I go to the Poconos? I've gone every year for the last couple of years, and we usually go for our anniversary, me and my husband, because it's like the land of love. My poor husband has to go to the 80s hotel every anniversary and take photos of me the entire weekend, and he doesn't get a break, and that's what he gets for being married to me. But I forgot my fucking suitcase when we went to the Poconos. Like I literally brought a couple of hangers that I brought like a bag because we drive, because we're fairly, we're only a couple of hours away. So I was like loading things into the car. And so I loaded a bunch of stuff into the car that had other clothes, but I didn't remember to bring my actual suitcase, which I had full of clothes. And I did so much thrifting for this trip, and I found a bunch of vintage like 80s, 90s pieces that I did not get to wear in the Poconos with the backdrop of the Poconos. Anyway, all this to say, I finally got to wear my vintage 90s red swimsuit bodysuit. I finally got to wear it in a way that was good and a way that like was really showing it off and letting it shine. So I appreciated that. And then I made the cape and like the armor, and I made the shield and the helmet I just got off of online. And yeah, I was really happy with my costume. I feel like it turned out really well. And I got second place in the costume contest, which I'm excited about. Like, I don't care that I didn't win first place. The person who won first place, they were dressed up as like David Bowie's character from The Labyrinth. I get it. Like that's a vibe, right? And I was just really grateful to be there and really grateful to, I don't know, like have been involved in the costume contest. So I was really happy with second place, and I ended up getting some gift cards to some local Salem witchcraft shops. I'll probably be doing like some content where I go and I spend my gift cards and like what am I gonna get with this amount of money at these witch shops. So hey, I had fun. I made a cool costume. The prize for me was just walking around in the costume. I love that kind of thing. I'm surprised I don't have more Leo in my chart. I think this is the Sagittarius energy. Like, people don't realize how performative Sagittariuses can be. I loved being there, and I got to meet a couple of y'all. Like, there was a couple of my followers and a couple of people in Patreon that were at this event. So it was so fun getting to meet you guys. It was really fun. I was so happy. I've been looking forward to that event for like a very long time because I had this idea about this costume that I wanted to do. And then that night was also the full moon in Virgo on Regulus. So I was doing some Regulus workings, and part of my costume was because, and the idea of it was because it was my Mars return. So my Mars is in Libra. Woo! If you're a Mars and Libra person, leave a comment. Let me know. I love Mars and Libra people. We're the best. I always get along with you guys because we have the same like outlook on so many things, and I feel like most of my best friends are Mars and Libra people, and we vibe, we get along. But it was my Mars return costume. Like, I wanted to dress as like Mars because I just felt like that would be so funny to celebrate my Mars return and almost do some like remediation on my Mars return. So I did that, and I did some petitions to Mars from that. And I was also doing some Regulus stuff. So part of that costume was a Regulus working that I won't really mention what it was about, but yeah. So I love doing costumes and performance as magic and ritual. I just think it's so fun. And I have a friend who does drag, and they kind of say the same thing, where they're like, I love just doing like a drag performance that is inspired by like an intention that I'm setting into the world, and it just feels like a really great way to like perform the ritual and cast the spell. And I just feel like it's so connected to glamour magic in a lot of ways. Like, I feel like every time I do something like that, it really has these big glamour waves, even if I don't intend for them to. So, underrated form of glamour magic. Remember it this fall when you're thinking about Halloween and Halloween costumes. So that was the Salem Witchfest. That was basically the last event. The next morning we had a brunch, and then we went to a couple of bars, and then I went home because I was sleepy. I'm still sleepy. Between that and like my ancient astrology seminar, I feel like I'm really sleepy from the trips. And I have a little bit more travel coming in the next couple of months, so it continues. But anyway, I'm really grateful. I'm really excited. I love to be able to do occult travel and to experience these things. Again, I'm a Sagittarius, so it's just something that I love to do. I'm so beyond grateful that I get to do these things. And the last thing I'll say about the Witch Fest is that I remember a couple of years ago, I don't remember if it was 2018 or 2019, but that was the first year that they did the Witch Fest in person. And I went, and I met one of my best friends that is now one of my best friends. One of my best friends is now my best friend. Wow. What a statement. But I met her at the time. She didn't live in Salem. This is Nicole from Highest Good Readings. She didn't live in Salem at the time, but she was visiting. And we met, and literally like however many years later, she's one of my best friends. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, I can't believe I like met her in this environment. I met Cadmus. I met a couple of other people at that time as well that, again, I've like, continued to connect with and enjoyed their work. And that was just so great. I remember the first time I went, I learned about geomancy. Like, I took a couple of geomancy classes because for whatever reason they were doing like a geomancy theme. And I learned geomancy in that seminar from Sam Block and Al Cummings, who are like two very prominent names in geomancy. So especially now, like, they're really known for it. And I just think back on that opportunity, and I'm like, wow, like, I'm so grateful that I got to learn from them, like, all of those years ago, learn this topic. I had no idea like what geomancy was. I didn't know who they were. And it was just like so life-changing. And I think about that conference back a couple of years ago, like I think it was like, yeah, it was like 6 or 7 years ago. And I've just changed so much since then. My practice has evolved so much. At the time, I had a small like tarot events-based business in the Salem area and like in Boston. And now my business has changed so much. It's grown so much. I do this full time now, which I'm so grateful for. And every time I go to the Witch Fest, I just think about myself. I was at that time, yeah, it was 2018, 2019. So I was doing tarot on the weekends here and there. And then I was working at my mom's hair salon because we have like a family hair salon. And I was working there, and I did not like working there because working for your family is really difficult because your boundaries get crossed a lot. And like there was lots of issues and instances where just it was not like a regular job in the sense that, yeah, my boundaries were crossed a lot. That's what I'll say about it. And I didn't love it. It was kind of far from where I lived at the time. Like I had to drive really far to get there. It was not my favorite thing. And I remember saying to my mom, like, hey, I really want to go to this conference this weekend. Do you think I should go? And we were like sitting in the back of the hair salon. And she was like, you should go. And I was like, really? Should I? I'm kind of nervous. And she was like, you should go. And I bought the ticket, and like I kind of splurged on it at the time. I was like, it was like a big thing for me. And I went, and it changed so many things for me. So anyway, I'm really grateful for the Salem Witchfest. And if you haven't heard of this festival, if it's not on your radar, I guess it's really on your radar now because you just listened to me talk about it for 30 minutes or however long I've been going on for. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm going to be putting all of the patrons on screen. These are the Coven tier members. Thank you to all of the Coven tier members. Y'all are what make this podcast possible. Y'all support all of my content and the show, and I really appreciate you guys. The Coven tier members get monthly live events, all sorts of different types of events. In September, our Coven tier live event is going to be a class/workshop, and the theme is erotic writing for manifestation. So we're going to be talking all about how you can write spicy scenes and erotic poems and all sorts of spicy literature and use it for manifestation and all sorts of different magical intentions. I love writing. I don't think it's a surprise to you. Maybe it is. Writing is one of my favorite things. It's like my number one hobby outside of this entire online thing that I do here. I love writing, and I actually went to college for creative writing, and I did a writing class back in May in the Coven tier, and everyone loved it so much. I got so much positive feedback from it. It was one of my highest attended classes ever. So we're bringing back the theme of writing, and we're going to be focusing specifically on spicy and erotic writing for magic and for fun. I also just released my astromagical report for September. Every month I write a report that goes over the main transits of the month and some of the astrological magic things that I recommend doing, some of the magical strategies that you can use to approach each week of the month based off of the astrology. That is available at any tier. So if you want to just get access to that report and the Discord server and our live streams we do twice a month on the new moon and full moon, you can join any tier and get access to those things. Thank you so much for listening and for being here, and we'll talk very soon. Bye.